Welcome, and thank you for joining us as we embark on a journey to discover how our resort community has become an innovative technological center. I am Mary Czar, Executive Director of the Boca Raton Historical Society and Museum.
And I'm Gianna Passanelli, Marketing Director for Crocker Partners and owner of the beautiful park that you see behind us, Boca Raton Innovation Campus, former IBM campus and birthplace of the first personal computer. Together, we have partnered to bring you Boca Raton Tech Talks, which aim to dissect the evolution of technology and innovation in Boca Raton.
We want to answer the question, why did these companies choose Boca Raton as their home base? Our conversation, a three-part series, will unfold the strategy behind some of Boca Raton's most impactful innovations, and we hope that this will mean something really special for the future of technology in our community.
All four cameras are a go. I am rolling. Stand by. All right, so let's go in 3, 2.
Hello, thanks for joining us for our morning tech talk here at BRiC. This morning we have panel 3 discussion with Angelo Bianca, the managing partner of Crocker Partners. Thanks for being here. We have Dan Kane, CEO of Modernizing Medicine, and Andrew Duffel from the Research Park, the president of the Research Park at FAU. Thanks everyone for being here. We're going to be talking about the current technology scene here in Boca Raton. And if we'll go down the line, we'll start with you, Angelo. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself and your business stance here in the city of Boca Raton?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Crocker Partners has been calling Boca Raton home since 1986. We have a very long history in this community, and it's evolved throughout time. And the founder of our company, Tom Crocker, actually a pioneer in real estate development, not just in this area, but nationally, built some well-known projects as Meisner Park or Boca Center. Really led the way for innovation in our business, and we're hoping to continue that today. And we acquired the Boca Raton Innovation Campus several years ago with the intent to make this the center, the hub, if you will, of life sciences and technology for the southeastern United States. And we developed great partners, which you're going to hear from a few of them right now in this effort. And the city as well has been wonderful to work with. And we're trying to create the place so that dynamic leaders like Dan Kane and his people can come to a place and create the next revolutions in technology and life sciences.
Well, we're already seeing that, and we'll dive into that in a little bit. But Dan, if you would please tell us a little bit about yourself and your business here based in Boca Raton.
Sure, I'm Dan Kane, CEO and co-founder of Modernizing Medicine. Modernizing Medicine is a specialty-specific healthcare technology company that focuses on serving the needs of surgical and medical specialties throughout the United States. We have over 20,000 subscribers on our technology, and BRiC has been a phenomenal home to us. Boca, in general, has been a fantastic place to create this company, to go from startup to scale up to today, where Modernizing Medicine has almost 1,000 employees. The overwhelming majority are right here in Boca, and all that's created in the last 10 years.
That's amazing. Explosive growth. We're so proud of you and what you've done for our city. Game changers. Again, we'll get into it a little bit deeper in a minute. Andrew, please tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do over at the Research Park.
Well, hi, thanks for having me. My name is Andrew Duffel. I'm the president of the Research Park at FAU. I've been at the Research Park now for about 10 years, and the park itself is now celebrating its 36th year. Last October was our 35th anniversary, and we've been involved in economic development and building companies throughout all of that time. Our main purpose is to bring the private sector into collaboration with the faculty and student body at FAU so that we can have new technologies discovered and then brought to market to create employment opportunities and bring new discoveries and healthcare technologies to society at large. And obviously, being a part of the FAU community, we've been at the heart of innovation really since Boca was on the map testing radar back in the 1940s. So we've tried to continue that tradition through today, and we've got lots of exciting things coming down the pike as well.
Yeah, your facility is one of the pioneers in Boca for innovation, and you continue to pivot and keep going. So great stuff. Angelo, I think we'll go back to you and discuss, you said you had a national presence as Crocker Partners, but there's something that seems to keep drawing you back to Boca, which we love, by the way. What is it? Why did you choose Boca Raton for this acquisition especially? It's pretty sizable.
Boca Raton has always been a special place because of the people who live in Boca Raton and work here. they have an innovative entrepreneurial sense that is really rare anywhere. The people gravitate here are leaders generally in their fields, they're creative, and it started decades ago. IBM, who founded this campus, came here in the late 60s when there was nothing here. We're a very young area of the country, and they helped build it. And this developed into the home where they innovated the first personal computer, which was invented right here. And I don't know if the camera can see this, but as an homage to what they've created here, we have a scaled model of the very first keyboard that IBM produced for the PC. Also, the first smartphone was developed here. It goes on, and we've had other companies as well. Siemens has a tremendous amount of presence here historically, and we have new innovators. In addition to Modernizing Medicine, we have Guidant, who's a brand new company that's starting out, that's calling Boca Raton home, and we're working with them as well, and that's the autonomous vehicle technology. So to me, the people who come here are leaders. They're the people that we want to do business with, and investing in real estate in front of that brain power, in front of that creativity and that entrepreneurial spirit is a good business decision for real estate people like me.
It's amazing. I mean, when we talk about corporate relocations, this property is definitely something on the forefront of our mind. Everyone wants to be with the big thinkers. Everyone, no matter what industry they're in. We talk about the big thinkers that are here at BRiC. So really, you make our job a lot easier having this facility.
Well,
really.
That's what we're trying to do here, is make it so that the big thinkers who come here have a place to collaborate and work together and interact, not just within their own company, but with other companies. And that's why we're embarking on almost $100 million renovation program for this. That's going to make this an Apple or Google campus, but for multiple tenants. It'll have cutting edge everything, the best amenities to attract and retain the talent, which is really the lifeblood of all of their businesses, which I'm sure that Dan will attest to.
Excellent. I want to get into some of the discussion about what your plans are for the property, because it's very important to hear, because a lot of people are very interested in BRiC. So we'll get into that. But Dan, you could have gone anywhere. Explosive growth. You made an announcement, a commitment to hire 800 people. Could have gone anywhere in the country, truly. And you chose Boca Raton. It's true. You chose BRiC. Why was that?
So we definitely chose Boca. It was intentional. South Florida is actually one of the best talent development areas for technology in the country. And I think there's definitely a perception gap of what gets created in South Florida. And so 10 years ago, when we were starting up Modernizing Medicine and scaling up, I was actually in the research park working along with Andrew, scaling up a very young Modernizing Medicine. And again, that was very intentional, because you need to be able to tap into the resources of the great universities, the public and private generators of talent and talent development, because companies like Modernizing Medicine, our people are our big resource. It's all about people, it's all about culture and innovation, and South Florida as an ecosystem has that, but Boca, in my opinion, is the epicenter of that culture of innovation. And that's part of the reason why in the 60s IBM created this complex and created all the innovation, and it drove a lot of it. And what happens when you have something this big, this important happening in a community is a lot of those people stay and form other companies. And it becomes the nucleus that everything sort of evolves around. And so when I looked at Boca, I said, that's where Modernizing Medicine will absolutely be at. First, in the research park at Florida Atlantic University, and now here at BRiC. And there's also something about the geography that's really important to look at. So Modernizing Medicine wants to draw from the largest possible talent pool. And the thing about South Florida is it's a fairly unique geography that's sort of 10 miles wide and 150 miles long. And Boca is the geographic epicenter of that. We draw talent from Miami, we draw talent from North Palm and Jupiter, and they can make it here. And we can draw as far west as Wellington and Weston. And having a place to convene, to come together, and a campus like this to do it in is essential to developing a great culture like we have at ModMed.
It's amazing. Your culture is, I remember visiting your office, and it was so unique to me after meeting with a lot of companies here at the research park. Andrew took us on a tour, and we met with your team, and just you could feel the vibe in the office for sure. It had an energy that you don't always see, but I know we always see it when we come through companies here at BRiC. Andrew, same question. We didn't choose, I guess you didn't choose Boca Raton for the research park because it was here before you came, but again, same story. You could have gone anywhere in your career. You chose the research park. Why is that?
Well, I think, Dan's outlined a lot of the reasons. I've been in economic development for more than 20 years now, and while I've marketed communities and even countries to the business sector, to me it was more important and more rewarding to be a part of making the shape of that community, helping to build what that community was able to take to market. So being able to work with companies like Modernizing Medicine, Mobile Help, FlowSpine that's in the research park today, US Biosystems, its predecessor, that to me is extremely rewarding because it shows the rest of this community and even the country what Boca Raton can produce as a result of the education that people can receive at Florida Atlantic University, the collaborations that they can engage in with the faculty and the equipment at the university, and that really is the whole purpose of the research park. It's to help scale companies like Modernizing Medicine to really take off and become economic engines for the region, but it's also a place where consistent research can take place, and through those discoveries the good of society is improved. We've got a lot of companies that won't necessarily grow to be 800 people, but they consistently do research on the human brain, for example, and can inform other researchers and people who develop products to make sure that we're all healthier. So by doing that, we create what Boca Raton looks like, and to me that's very, very rewarding and helps really form the economic development field and make sure that we're able to contribute to making Boca Raton and the whole of Palm Beach County a better place.
Wonderful. Very good information, because I think a lot of people being on the campus where you are, a lot of people know about it if they're in the know, and a lot of people don't. So it's a great story. Good to get this out. You mentioned the impact that you have on the community. Obviously, a story like Modernizing Medicine, Mobile Help, those graduates that have really been success stories. What would you say is the biggest impact the research park has on the community?
Well, I think that, as I mentioned, we're a place for ideas to germinate and become companies. And that ranges from undergraduate students who have what they may think is a crazy idea in the dorm, and being able to join in business plan competitions and join Tech Runway to really understand what it takes to stand up a company and make it real. And then the services that we offer in the research park more broadly in terms of making companies sustainable and contribute to research and development. That's very important, and I think that that's one of the things that we've been good at. But more broadly, the development and the attraction of intellectual capital is one of the most important things that any research park can contribute to a community, is that consistent improvement and discovery. I mean, that's how new ideas become money-generating ideas or improvements for society. And so long term, those two things have really been our big drives, our mission, our reason for existing, and that's what we've been able to accomplish. More tangibly, in any given year, there are more than 1,000 people working in the research park. So the economic activity in any given year is around $500 million in terms of personal income generated, revenues generated by companies, not to mention the value of intellectual property that is developed and created within the research park. So both long-term and short-term in measurable bites, it's pretty significant.
It's very significant. I think one of the impacts we see from our perspective as a city and as a resident of Boca Raton is job creation. You bring valuable, high-paying jobs to the city, and that's something that no city can live without, and that attracts good talent. So you're doing a great job.
Well, that's really, I think, very important in economic development.
Absolutely.
I mean, all jobs are valuable, but to improve the being of a society, you need to have those high-paying jobs that are creating new knowledge,
Correct.
which in turn begets other jobs. So the average salary in the research park is usually about double the average for the whole county. So we're usually in the $70,000 to $80,000 range on an annual basis. So yes, it's impressive, and it helps create new opportunities for the wider community.
Absolutely, and I think you also have a diversified group coming out of talent that is in different sectors, and
Sure.
we've realized that's very important through COVID. Certain sectors got hit more than others, so very good work. Dan, I'm going to come back to you, asking the same question. What is the most impact your business has had on, or you have had on the community?
Sure, and I just want to touch on something
Sure.
that Andrew was talking about a minute ago, which is economic development and community, and there are kind of two ways to help bring jobs to Boca Raton, right? One is to get established companies to relocate to Boca, and I think a lot of economic development tends to focus on that, like come to Boca for all the right reasons, right? The community, the tax, the infrastructure, the schools, the quality, everything. So that's one way to do it, but there is another way. It's just harder, which is to grow it, right? Organic growth, and to do that, you are only as strong as the weakest link in your chain. You need to be able to go from people with concepts to prototypes, which is where things like the research park and the tech incubator, or the things like your STEM lab come in. You need to be able to go from a prototype to a product to a company, and then you become a job creator. And if you're missing any of those steps, right? If you don't have the infrastructure, if you don't have the real estate to be able to create small company and incubate it and then grow into a medium and then grow into large and then sort of supersize it, you won't be able to scale in a place like Boca, but it's here, right? We have buildings like this at BRiC that can support companies of thousands of employees. You've got everything in between, but most importantly, you've got the right people supporting it. You've got access to funds at every stage. There are people here in organizations that do seed money, early venture, late stage venture, and certainly private equity invest in companies in Boca and in South Florida. So the fact that we have the ability to both attract talent to Florida and attract new companies and new flags and new logos, but also organically grow it. And it takes longer to do that, but the seeds are already here. The fact that we've had IBMs and Citrix and Motorola here in the 60s and 70s and 80s mean that the innovation spirit is here, but most importantly, those people, those innovators are here, and they are available to work as leaders in these organizations. They're available to mentor and tutor and help incubate the next generation of technologies. So your question was more how to modernizing medicine, how do we see economic development and growth, and it's about engagement with our community. So we are heavily involved, especially with the local universities, and not just FAU. I know that we have a lot of ties to FAU, but Lynn and Palm Beach State College, as well as even the other universities that have presence in South Florida. It's important for us to be able to draw as much talent as we can. And the unfair advantage about being the local company is you get a little more press, a little more visibility, but more importantly, you can engage, you can guest lecture, you can offer internship opportunities and tutoring opportunities and mentorship opportunities, and all of that engagement lets us find great talent way before they're in the job market and graduated, because the best of the best already know where they're going to work long before they've received their diploma. The trick is to get in and get involved and engage with them and build your brand much earlier on in the life cycle.
So great information. Just to touch back on your point about kind of helping the startup community, that's something that the city has done recently over the last 3 or 4 years to provide some support to the research park and the tech runway, because we recognize that those are the companies that are here. Why not, water the garden in our yard as opposed to, and we do both. We're good at doing both, attracting new companies from the corporate. But I wanted to make that point because it's something that a lot of people don't realize the city does financially support these organizations that are doing the heavy lifting, the startup community.
And great entrepreneurs are built, not born, right?
Correct.
Innovators are born. People that want to create and innovate and do something transformative, like that comes from within. But then knowing okay, how do I actually do that? How do I raise capital and hire people and open a bank account and incorporate an LLC? And there are things that you need to be taught. How to think about business, how to think about balance sheets and income statements, and how to do your hiring and build a culture. And programs like YAY, which the city certainly supports, the Young Entrepreneurs Academy, all the way through programs at FAU and others, help build the talent, right? Help train the talent to be great, successful business leaders and entrepreneurs. And again, it comes back to that programming, and you can't start too young to be able to do that. So we have those programs here. You can be 10-year-old entrepreneur saying, okay, I want to learn about creating a widget, and there are programs you can engage in that will teach you and mentor you and help promote you. And it's probably unlikely that widget you developed as a 10-year-old is what you're going to spend the rest of your career doing, but that process of writing a business plan and pitching it and even raising some capital, those skills are what will make you a great entrepreneur as you continue your journey.
Yeah, those fundamental skills, the sooner you can learn them, I think the better in any business sector.
That's something that makes Boca Raton unique. There aren't many communities around the country or world that have that continuum of support from kindergarten, really, through postgraduate and adult career development. That's all here, and pretty much anyone you run into is willing to lend a hand or know someone who will, whether it's in the research park or in high school or in a private company here at BRiC. Everybody's willing to pitch in, and you see the results of that.
Do you think that we see less brain drain because of that talent infrastructure we have with the YAY programs and such? Do you think that helps?
It certainly helps.
Retain those.
We've always had to do a better job of communicating
Correct.
exactly what we have,
Yeah.
so that we lose less of that brain drain and
Right.
attract young
More.
talent from elsewhere. But it does help, but we need to do a better job of telling the story.
Wonderful. Angela, we'll start with you on the next question. How do you see your business evolving over the next 5 to 10 years? What can we expect out of Crocker and BRiC?
Well, my business is boring compared to their business.
No, it's not.
They have very
It's not
sexy, cutting-edge business. I'm in the infrastructure business.
I'm in government.
I'm basically a farmer.
Sexy,
I mean,
not
this is just
sexy.
like. But what I want to do is I want to make places for them, because
Perfect.
the future
Yes.
they represent. I can make environments that help support their business and make their business more successful. And that's how I make my money, is by making them more successful. So when we looked at BRiC and how we could fix this, because this has been forgotten for many decades after its greatness that IBM brought it to, that kind of started to wane in the 80s after they left here, was what do we do? And the idea was, let's look at the future. So we did an examination to see what industries make sense. Where do we want to grow? What kind of worker of the 21st century are we trying to provide space for? Turns out, you look at the top 20 companies in the world, and of them, 10 of them are tech and life science, and 10 of them are finance. So I'm like, well, we're not going to be New York City or London, so let's carve that out. But we can be tech and life sciences. I mean, it started here in a large part. So that's what we focused on. And we're trying to create as I said, a Google or an Apple campus, but for tenants, so that they can have the environment that is conducive to their business, their growth, their collaboration, which is why people office. Because we all know from the pandemic, you can work from home. It works, but you're just treading water. When you can't collaborate, you can't have accidental discoveries that you do in this environment. So that's why we're putting in the first food hall in Boca Raton with 7 restaurants, a massive auditorium of 1,000 people so we can have TED Talks here on campus, the gym, the health and wellness center, the STEAM lab that you mentioned earlier, which is going to allow our tenants and their employees to prototype and create right on campus. So they have an idea of what they want to do. They can go downstairs and they can create it in the CNC fabricating machine. They can use that, they can bring it back upstairs and be like, look, they can print it out in 3D printer. We're going to create that environment, and hopefully some of our tenants will adopt the 3M model of allowing their employees to spend 10% of their time doing their own creative thought, and we're going to provide that support for them. They're going to have it here. So that's what excites me. I can be a small part in the creative geniuses that reside here, and that's what we want to do. In addition to providing the tech, we all know health and well-being has been illustrated in the last 9 months being extraordinarily important. So, we've created a wellness center and an environmental program because we want to be a carbon neutral campus. We want to have as little negative impact on the world as possible. And long term, turn this into a live, work, and play village so that people don't have to drive to the office. They can live there and walk to the office. They can go shopping around the corner. We can make this into an entrepreneurial, innovative campus.
Yeah, when you came on board, when you acquired the property a few years ago when we first met, you had a vision that you obviously are putting to work, and it's happening. It was a big undertaking. It's changing the whole property. It's changing the physical look of the property, but the whole thought process, the tenant, the quality of tenant that you're attracting. I mean, look at Canon. Again, they could have gone anywhere. 127,000 square feet of space, beautiful property. We'll get into some of those details, but I think you really executed on your plan, and I know there's so much more coming down the pipe. I know.
There's so much.
I'm not going to get you started.
We haven't even started.
I know.
But I'm just touching
the surface.
on this.
I know.
But we're trying to make this completely special. Like the focus on arts that we have and history is unparalleled. We were designing 2 museums to be in here. An art museum that'll be both internal and external, as well as a history of tech museum that we're working on. I mean, Bill Gates came here and famously negotiated his license agreement for his software here, the greatest business agreement made since the Dutch bought Manhattan for $24.
Yeah.
Arguably, this is better. And
I think so.
And he, funny story, he came here and IBM wouldn't meet with him because he didn't have a
No
tie.
tie.
So he had to go to send someone to Bird Eye, and he wore a clip-on tie when he made the greatest business deal in the history of America. So, I mean, there's so much here to talk about.
I
so
agree.
much.
You're actually building upon what's already the foundation that's here. You said you're trying to build this and that and the vision, but you're not trying. You're absolutely doing it. It's just, it's really, I'm serious. It's a big deal for the city of Boca. We see it, the evolution that's happening here. Like I said, I'm not kidding when I say it makes our job easier when we're able to negotiate, relocations and have them come through here. It's a very impressive property.
Well, I've got a
Having
great
tenants.
team. Great team.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so Dan, we'll ask you the same question. I have to see what it was. How do you continue? Oh no, I'm sorry. How do you see your business evolving for Modernizing Medicine over the next 5 to 10 years?
So for us, it's all about growth. And we are, in our 11th year now, so we've got 10 years under our belt. We've proven the business model. But today we only touch a handful of specialties in the U.S. And so there's so much more for us to go out and learn and do and scale. So the next 5 to 10 years for Modernizing Medicine are all about sustained growth, continuing to hire, continuing to train, attract, retain great talent, and then take on new specialties in healthcare, take on new capabilities that the healthcare system really needs. I mean, the U.S. healthcare system is a $4 trillion a year business, right? It's the largest part of our GDP, and it is in the most need of technology to help it innovate and scale. And when we look at the problems facing America as a country, healthcare always rises to the top, right? And so as more people come here, and as we grow as a country, we either need to start massively increasing the number of doctors and nurses and healthcare professionals in the market, which we're trying to do, but that takes time, or we can figure out the right way to use technology to help enhance and scale tech so that people can be more accountable themselves for healthcare. We saw a tremendous emergence of telemedicine during COVID. Yes. And it's not like telemedicine is really new. It wasn't, to be honest, reimbursed correctly. And if you don't align the right economic incentive, you don't get the right outcome. And so in the case of U.S. healthcare system, it was held back by all sorts of different state and regulatory environments that made it difficult for doctors to actually connect with patients. All of that took, I'm going to say, 10 years of work happened in 10 days at the beginning of COVID, where suddenly they bulldozed all this regulatory roadblocks and said, we are going to make it easy for patients to connect with doctors, and we're not going to worry about, okay, is the patient living in Florida, but they're visiting in New York and the doctor is in, Texas. Like, we're not going to worry about these types of things anymore. Whereas the week before, those things mattered. Like what state you were boarded in and where the patient was and where the doctor was physically sitting, and all that went away. The other thing that changed was the reimbursement model. So at least for now, it's all billed as what's called parity. So a doctor seeing a patient through telemedicine, which by the way, patients love, the quality and convenience of a telemedicine encounter, is now billed at the same level as if the patient was there in person. And so as long as we keep making the right, not just technological investments, but keep aligning our regulatory environment and the economic incentives to do the right thing, we're going to be able to scale healthcare to entirely new levels and not just improve quality, but improve accessibility of healthcare for all.
I think that's interesting. I didn't realize the regulatory behind, it was a pivot through COVID as we see family members that are doing it electronically, and it is a game changer. It's much more convenient. It's one of the silver linings of COVID.
It absolutely is. And it's something I hope, and I do expect it to continue post-COVID, is that people, not for everything, for sometimes you really need to go to a hospital, see your doctor, I'm a new patient, I want to get all this work, but if it's a follow-up, especially for things like follow-up on encounters or mental health, the telemedicine experience where you are sitting at home in a comfortable environment and you're seeing the doctor, it's intimate, like you don't lose anything in that type of a telemedicine experience, and it's so much more convenient for the doctor and the patient, which means they can actually see more patients because they're not losing all this time between them. And then technologies like Modernizing Medicine help reduce the burden that they have outside. So the old way of doing healthcare was the doctor would see you, Today, they're probably turning their back on you and treating a computer screen for a couple minutes and then talking to you and then going back to the computer.
Right.
All of that time spent with technology takes away from the patient experience. And what Modernizing Medicine excels at is making sure that when the doctor and the patient are in the room together, at most there's an iPad for touching in some information, but there's nothing between the doctor and the patient. And the amount of time they're spending outside of that exam room treating the chart, prescribing and ordering labs, we've reduced that down to just minutes compared with what they had to do prior, which is, it was an average of 32 minutes per patient. The majority of that time was spent with technology, not with the patient.
Wow.
We've come in and fixed that, and that's an area that I'm super proud of.
Win-win. People feel more trust, they feel like they have more time with their physician, and the physician feels less stressed about the paperwork and the processes.
Well, and then the outcome improves, right? If the doctor can spend more time focusing on the patient,
Right.
the patients will have better outcomes. If the doctor is spending the majority of their time treating the technology and doing all this documentation and billing and lab ordering of prescriptions and all the things that they have to do, it takes away from their engagement with the patient, which not only, no doctor I've ever met is like, I went to med school so I could treat electronic health
Right.
records. Like,
You're
they want to
absolutely
help
right.
people.
They're help. Right.
And the more technology companies like Modernizing Medicine can streamline that, the better off the doctor-patient experience is, but more importantly, the better the patient outcome.
Totally agree. It's amazing.
Long term, I think one of the most interesting things about modernizing medicine is the data that you collect. So that when you talk about outcomes, you can look over years, over different patient populations at what impacts a particular medicine has on different groups of people. So then Medicaid can use that to decide how to reimburse or what medicines are more effective, so that pharmaceutical companies spend more time and money on R&D rather than marketing to Medicare to reimburse me versus that company. So to me, apart from all of the patient interaction, we get better societal outcomes just from the data that you collect.
Yeah, looking at de-identified and aggregated data is definitely something that government agencies are collecting to be able to look at looking at data as a whole, right? They're doing what are called retrospective studies, looking backwards at, on a population like the United States, what are we doing, what works and what doesn't? And that can absolutely, on a long enough timeline, also lead to better outcomes. It takes time, right, to get the data securely to the government in a way that never violates patient privacy or security, where then the government agencies or the academic researchers can then publish on that data. The published data can then go into peer-reviewed journals, which get adopted by academies, which get turned into new guidelines. And that's sort of the magic, is when an academy comes up with a guideline, suddenly companies like Modernizing Medicine can say, well, it's not Modernizing Medicine saying, here's what you should do, doctor. It's the American Academy of Orthopedics says, this is standard of care now, and it's better than the old standard of care. And the data helped inform that decision. You're
That's
absolutely
going to
right.
be the biggest game changer when we can start to do that, because there's so much inefficiencies in the system. There is no centralized authority. And there's no data currently to support that. So it's going to be wonderful when what Dan's talking about advent for the business.
Absolutely. Data-driven. And it'll change the game. Even though it'll take time, it's valuable work. I think it's something
It'll
that we
dramatically reduce costs.
Yeah, which is a big thing.
And increase the efficacy of the treatment.
And it's happening right here.
Yeah.
You realize that.
Right.
Andrew, I'll ask you the same question. I think it's very important. Where do you see the research park going in the next 5 to 10 years? What could we see coming out of the research park?
Well, I think the short and quick answer is we'd like to see more companies like Modernizing Medicine that are incubated and scaled and outgrow us and come to places like BRiC to really continue that amazing economic energy, whether it's in medicine or other areas of technology. And I think the way we'll do that is really harnessing what has become a very exciting time at Florida Atlantic University. If you look at the way the university has organized itself now, they're really specializing in a few key areas of science and technology. Neuroscience and healthcare, broadly writ, sensors and sensing and networks for another, and ocean engineering and environmental sciences as another. I think through the expertise developed at Florida Atlantic University, we'll be able to recruit new companies that want to work with the faculty at the university in those areas and really leverage their knowledge and their resources and grow companies in those spaces, which will be ideal. To help do that, recently, throughout the pandemic in 2020, we launched a new initiative called Global Ventures at FAU, which is funded in part by the city of Boca Raton and Palm Beach County, to help us build on the knowledge that we have here and add to it. So we're increasing the size of the pie rather than churning energy from within the state or within the United States. So we'll bring new intellectual property from Brazil, for example, new capital from overseas, and bring that or add to the energy we already have here in Boca Raton. So we've seen some successes already. We've got new companies that have relocated here from Brazil and from Canada already. And we really obviously hope to see them grow, and we're doing that through the proximity to the university, the access to 30,000 multicultural, motivated students, and the increasingly impressive faculty at Florida Atlantic University, who are increasing the dollar value of the grants they're winning from the federal government, which in turn obviously brings more and more high quality companies that want to and need to work with them. So I'm excited about the next 5 to 10 years, very much so.
Should be. We're all excited about it. Angelo, tell us, what can we expect for the innovation? Where do you see innovation overall, not necessarily pertaining to anything in particular, but in the city of Boca Raton? Where do you see that over the next 5 to 10 years? Same outlook.
Well, I've been working closely with the city's actual technology department, which is, I think, another distinguishing factor of Boca Raton is that we have one. And I don't think a lot of places do. And trying to facilitate growth of technological startups, many from the tech runway and from our local businesses, including the one I mentioned earlier, Guidant, which is an autonomous vehicle related company, and they're creating the technology to make AV safe from a monitoring system, and we're actually working on a pilot program that will be based right here in the Boca Raton Innovation Campus to service our community with robotic cars.
Wow. That's so cool.
It is cool. The first ones might be a little tedious because I think the top speed is like 9 miles an hour for safety reasons, but we're starting.
Makes sense though, come
right.
on, makes sense.
And so to me, the fact that the community is getting behind this, the city, and obviously private industry and the creative technology types is just another sign of how Boca Raton continues to lead in technology and our future.
I think that's kind of like we talked about before with big thinkers. I think types of innovative concepts like that are happening elsewhere, having them happen in Boca Raton gets us on the map. You know, it just becomes a story of innovation that is happening right here in our city.
We should get us on. We've been on the map for a long time. Since the 1940s, we started with radar. It was tested here. We invented, the number of inventions we had here in the 60s and 70s and 80s are too numerous to count. There's a wealth of innovation, technology, as I said, entrepreneurial spirit that has been part of the fabric of our community for decades.
I agree with you. I think somewhere along the line, sometimes the story doesn't get out, and that's why programming like this is so important, to have people out to kind of remind ourselves. Even we forget. We take it for granted sometimes. I think the innovative fabric that we have here, and how do we build upon that? And I think the autonomous vehicles and things like that. It's kind of a really cool story to kind of remember where we came from.
Maybe we should change our city motto to like innovation and technology. Boca Raton,
Let me write that down. Dan, same question, please. Where do you see innovation overall in the city of Boca Raton in the next 5 to 10 years?
We already have a great foundation of innovation, right? We've got, I talked about the importance of the education environment. So all of the schools, whether they're elementary, middle, focusing on STEM and STEAM, the high schools we have here are outstanding, and then obviously working through the universities, all of that creates a culture of innovation, right? It's then making sure that we have the economic drivers that allow people that want to innovate to be able to innovate. And that's where all of the organizations around angel and venture capital, that's where space really does matter.
Yes.
If you do not have a space to convene, if you do not have a space to innovate, if you don't have groups that come together and talk about technology, innovation, entrepreneurship, it's hard for people to find those birds of a feather, and it's hard for them to feel like the city is going to support them. And Boca absolutely has that in spades at each one of those steps. At the young entrepreneur, at the tech innovator, at the startup, at the scale up. and then all the way through these huge companies. Like again, we're sitting here, you know, at the epicenter of where the PC was invented, the smartphone was first created, radar was perfected within a half a mile of here.
Yep.
Like this is an epicenter for innovation and technology. We need to do a better job of telling the story.
Right.
But more importantly, the success will speak for itself. And as more companies become successful, you know, Boca, like you said, already on our radar, already on the radar of the country, but that'll become brighter and brighter as more people realize just what's going on down here.
Maybe we should change our motto to "We're on the radar then, we're on the radar now."
It's clever.
Let me write that one
See,
down.
collaboration.
This is what we
cannot
need.
do this on
Socially
Zoom. This should
distanced
not be happening.
collaboration.
Clever.
This should not be happening.
Andrew, this will be our final question. Same question about innovation, a forecast over the next 5 to 10 years, where you see certain sectors maybe where we will be.
I think that we've got a great foundation, as both Angelo and Dan have said, and I think it's really important to build on our strengths, right? So we've got great talent development and research going on at FAU, and I talked about the different areas that they're focusing on, and the reason they've chosen healthcare and sensors and ocean engineering and environmental engineering is because that's what we're good at in Florida. That's what we need in Florida to make life good and better in the future in Florida, and particularly South Florida. So you're going to see an increase in technological innovation in healthcare. South Florida is healthcare in South Florida is very, very important because of the population that's here. Not only aging populations, but populations from different parts of the world with different ailments and conditions. So this is a great population to test on, to have clinical trials. I think we'll see more and more clinical trials being conducted at the university and in the community at large. And the innovation that goes along or is needed in healthcare will continue, again, for those same reasons. We have to drive down the cost of healthcare and make it more widely available. And the sensors and the environmental technologies are imperative if we're going to continue to call South Florida home. We have the ocean on one side and the Everglades on the other. Making sure that those two systems are healthy and sustainable makes us be able to live here. We can't live here without them being as successful as possible. So we need to continue innovating in those, and we'll see more and more innovation and people relocating here that work on those fields. So I think that the strategy that the university has chosen, it was done on purpose because that's what we have and that's what we need here in South Florida. So I really think that's where we'll see our growth.
Great insight, really great discussion. I want to thank you all for being here. I want to thank first and foremost the Historical Society for inviting us, and of course Angelo Bianco from Crocker Partners, Dan Kane, Modernizing Medicine, and Andrew Duffel from the Research Park at FAU. Thank you so much for listening to our Panel 3 discussion of the Tech Talk.